I was just talking my behind off, excuse me, and didn't realize that my wow, I was dropping some nuggets too, y'all. Oh my goodness, I was just talking myself away and didn't realize my audio had went out. So here we are again. And what I was just saying, let me continue to. Wow, I was dropping some nuggets. But anyways, I was reading, and I'm probably going to have to read some of this to you again. And I was saying, I was actually talking about natural water a minute ago. And and how that water it moves. Water's alive. It has to move for it to have life in it. But if you have stagnant water, and I was talking about the water that we drink and how that this water is not alive, because water has to move to stay alive. And the water that we drink is not natural water. And this is why I said you get your water from your natural water from the fruits that you eat. And I was listening to an older gentleman who happens to be a raw eater. You know, he was dropping some nuggets, and of course I'm absorbing those, and I bring certain things to you. But as I was also saying too, a lot of stuff that I get from the Creator. You know, and I said, what better is to get it from the source? He'll drop nuggets on me, and I'll bring it to you, and I'll elucidate it so that you can have it. Just like when he spoke to me about divine proportion, he spoke to me about the golden ratio, which is a theorem and which is a study. But he also gave me, when he told me, or that duality, you don't ever have to think another thought. Think about this. That every thought you can ever think has already been thought. And therefore, within the subconscious realm, you have already created your reality or your world to a manifestation that you have processed through thought, feeling, because all of these components are the basis foundationally for manifestation of your existence in your life, your essence. So that being what it is the reality that you create. And so this whole process of spiritual growth is always germinating, it's always pulsating, it's always vibrating, and it never stops. But again, you are the engine that runs that locomotive spiritually. You are the engine. Okay? And we talked about here the psychology of the ancients, the study of behavior has come a long way. And we talked about that. And then we went on down. And I hope that I got a good portion of what before my audio had went out, so that I don't have to bring this to you again, read it to you again. And we talked about how the Greeks and how, you know, these guys were basically plagiarizers. As I often mention, anytime you hear them giving them credit, you often know that came from Kemet. And they try to group these three cultures in the same lump. And you can't do that. Circa 500 to 450 BCE, Alcmaeon is believed to be the first to have dissected human and animal bodies. He suggested that the balance of imbalance between different powers controlling the body were responsible for health and illness, which is not true. Okay, from around 480 to 411 BC, Pythagoras proposed that truth and beauty are subjective and they depend more on the perceiver than on the physical reality. And I read that. So I don't know if you have that in the first portion segment. Hopefully you do. And we'll visit that again. Then it talked about circa 470, 399 BCE. Socrates believed truth lies in every person's mind and can't be defined by any authority. He considered knowledge to be beliefs backed by some rational explanation and was the first to use the word psyche as the seed of the intelligence and character formed by reason, will, and desire. Socrates also suggested that the best way to know the interior world was by asking oneself questions and through conscious reflection. This is the basis of introspection. Okay, and I said before, you guys already know that not so much I, but it's been said several times about being absent from the mind and how that in subconscious, and I dropped you something here. I think I remember what I said. In the subconscious is where everything is happening. And I said one of the things that becomes a detriment a detriment for a lot of people is that they're making conscious decisions from the subconscious. Because in the subconscious is where you're processing and developing everything that you feel, everything emotion, spiritually, and your idiosyncrasies and your faults and your doubts and your triumphs and your feelings about the world and you and yourself and your family and everything around you. It's being done in the subconscious, but what is happening is you're making conscious decisions in your subconscious where you're creating and manifesting either your greater good or your greater demise, because you are not understanding that in your subconscious is where you process everything to make an observation in this conscience to decide exactly what you will do and how you will act. This has everything to do with the spiritual psyche, okay? And this is where there is consternation and anxiety for a lot of people because they don't understand or understand that in this conscious reality that they live in is they don't understand the spiritual subconscious, that in the conscious becomes almost a lot of the times an illusion, because you are allowing the ego mind, again, the ego mind to formulate and to shape your reference of reality. Your reference of reality. While in the subconscious, it's already been created, but you'll take from the conscious thinking that you have already formulated this reality when it's happened already in the subconscious, if you're understanding where I'm going. So you're making these observations in the conscious reality, and your thinking is the right decision because it's your mind that is doing it. Because subconsciously, spiritually, in the subconscious, where everything happens, where all energies move and are germinated, that's where you should be doing most of your homework, spiritually in the subconscious. That's where it is. That's where it's happening. Okay. So when you don't understand these things, you can become a train wreck. And so this is why, again, so many people have antithetical biases against their own self, because they don't hone in on and there's so many different variables, because people won't even admit they have a psychosis. Circa 460 to 370 BCE, Hippocrates is often regarded as the father of medicine. He conceived, which we know better, right? We know Imhotep is the first multi-genius in the world. And it says he conceived the Hippocratic Oath, well, which I call is a hypocrite's oath. That's what I call it. It's a hypocrite's oath, because doctors have to say this and giving praise and glory to Europe, the Europe that didn't create anything, okay? The Europe that plagiarized, the Europe that borrowed, the Europe that stole, so they have to do this. He considered knowledge to be beliefs backed by some rational explanation, and was the first to use the word psyche as the seat of the intelligence, character formed by reason, will, and desire. Socrates also suggested that the best way to know the, and I read that. Okay. So it says here, as I was, and it talks about the oath, and they said a pledge, of ethics still taken today by new physicians. He also denied that demons, listen to this, demons were behind the development of diseases. And it says, hypocrites, that's what I call them, described several behavioral disorders and developed the theory of the four humors associated with the temperament and personality. These were Phlegms, blood, yellow, bite, and black bile. Is that bile? Yeah, I think it is. No, those were created in Kemet. Okay, so this is where we I say it all the time. Anyways, and I don't want to seem as though I'm always harping on one particular target, but I want you to understand and understand how this works, and to center yourself in your spiritual essence so that you'll be able to grasp what is you. And you'll know that in the subconscious is where it is actually taking place. I very seldom use that mind anymore unless I have to grab it and get a thought and take it and do what I need to do with it and then put it back. You understand what I mean? You understand? Because you can't allow yourself. See, because when you allow the type of flow where the mind bombards you and it's always creating these thoughts for you, you're gonna be in a hot mess. You really are. And I said this before. I used to have such an overworked mind. You have to pull it in. You have to say, oh no, you're not telling me what to do. I'm telling you how to think. Okay? And so you'll really have peace and rest when you're able to achieve this. And this is where I spoke of before in Kemetic mystery systems. One of the things is mastery of thought. It's mastery of thought. And it's a whole different realm. It's a whole different realm. See, because let me say this. Everybody talking about spirituality is not spiritual. Just like everybody talking about Christianity, obviously. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Good, bad, or indifferent. And there are a lot of things that are in a lot of things. But what are the right things that are within that thing? See, because you have spiritual people calling themselves spiritual, but they're still, as I said before, spiritual, but they're still doing things that are not spiritual. You're still sleeping around. How could you be spiritual if you're still sleeping around with a bunch of women or men? How could you be spiritual? You're not. How could you be spiritual if you're taking substances that are not good for your temple? If you're eating wrong, if you're doing all these things, you can't be spiritual because your energy is off. You don't have balance. You don't have any balance because these things will throw off your molecular connection and your magnetic field with the universe and the creator. And you will not be able to get any magnetic connection with the creator. So stop it. Because he will the duality, the plurality will be able to come and allow you to divide between things. Yes, indeed. Trust me. So I hope that you receive something. I'm going to check it. I hope that you receive something in the first segment, and because I was talking up something, and all of a sudden I looked and I said my audio was off, and so we are going to. I'm going to give you a little bit more, and we're going to end up for the night because it's actually getting late. So let's do this. But I think that because there is a psychosis among us, and unfortunately we are doing things to ourselves that are not good. Because we're on a low tier, man. I mean, I have to say it. A lot of us are vibrating real low. We thought we were the shit. Let me put it that way. Excuse the vernacular, because we substituted we substituted our spiritual self for some other things, and we thought we was really hitting it, but we were missing it. We were missing it big time. And you look up and you say, man, I was missing it. You know how I got tricked? Yeah, you got duped, friend. You was because let me tell you something. There ain't no better high than knowing oneself, knowing how the universe moves and breathes and emanates and flows, and it's not static, and it's always vibrating. It's rhythm and numbers. It's things that's calculating and moving all the time, all the spaces, and all this. How are we evolving? How are you evolving? How are you evolving as a live entity? How are you evolving? What is your existence meaning? Does it give credence to the universe? Does it give credence to the echo platform that we are existing within? Go out, hug a tree. I do that. I hug tree. Tree is alive, right? The energy that you can get from certain things. I'm telling you. So anyways, here we are. We are going to end this, and we are going to give you just a bit more, and how will we do this? How will we end up? Listen, no artist contains excellence, but the strength of truth and justice is that it lasts, and that man can say, "This is the heritage of my father." Hotep. True. The ancient Kemites called medicine the necessary art. What is known about this art is documented mainly in 9 principal papyri. And it gives credence to these men and so forth here, scholars. Okay. Among this is knowledge of the brain. The medical papyri, the most relevant to psychiatry, are the Ebers and the Edwin Smith papyri. Both were set down at approximately the same time, 1550 BC. The Edwin Smith is important because it is the brain is described for the first time in history as being enclosed in a membrane that its hemispheres are patterns with convolutions. The ancient Kemites recognized that the brain was the site of mental functions. They emphasized the importance of assessing the state of consciousness and memory in all routine examinations. The state of consciousness was commonly expressed in the following phrases: the perishing of the mind. The mind is forgetful, like one who is thinking of something else. The fleeting mind, his mind goes away. It is difficult for him to hear the spoken word. You telling me? Which seemed to be rather comparable to the way the patient's concentration and attention is assessed and described in today's clinical examinations. So you know what? We're going to stop, and we're going to pick this up. And the other is hidden. The real name is an object was identified with the object itself. Nothing existed that had not received a name, who's lost his name, lost his personality and independence. Okay, so this bears some resemblance to the Freudian concept of the unconscious, or the concept of the invisible, okay, and Gestalt psychology. The struggle to know the real name was symbolic of the struggle to know the unknown, as we talked about subconscious and conscious. So until next time, again, this is Sophomore coming to you here on Anchor by Spotify. Remember to smash that button, like, share, subscribe. As always, we will be coming to you from many other different host sites such as Patreon, Spreaker Radio, Buzzsprout, Apple Music, Amazon, and so forth, and so more on Evolving and Moving. So to the next time, you guys, have a great evening. Take care of yourself.